So, what do we have? Detective John, yes, that is actually my name, Smith, asked from the other side of the table. Militiawoman Hella, just an unfortunate coincidence, Cenk, slumped down into a chair across from him. A salvage crew pulled a body from a collapsed parking building. Shield body, full armor, interior sash. Detective Smith leaned forward. Does this mean the Second Sons of Liberty have started breaking their side of the agreement? He asked worriedly. His job only existed, after all, because of a tea time between said Second Sons and the Governess of Boston, incorporating humans into various levels of the city's bureaucracy, especially the Home Guard, as interpreters for the Shield law enforcement. An agreement that seems to have worked out pretty well. Militiawoman Hella shook her head. No, the body is too old. Autopsy hasn't gone back to us yet, but the body was too decomposed to be recent. Probably a few years after the unification began. Aside from the militia being reorganized into a proper law enforcement group in order to cut down on rampant crime, being renamed Home Guard, the governess created an official language document to hopefully avoid riots over poor word choices. Whether or not it worked will be up to history to tell, but in the spirit of compromise, the Shield invasion of Earth was to be officially called the Unification, until otherwise changed. What about the suit? If it was intact, then it... Militiawoman Hella waved Detective Smith off. The black box. She tasted the unfamiliar word, trying to learn English, so she wouldn't have to rely on Smith so much when interrogating citizens. The human nodded and she continued. Yeah, that was one of the first things pulled by our intel girls. It's one of the reasons we believe this was a standard murder, instead of rebel action. Any rebel who lasted this long would have known to break or steal the black box, Smith replied, following her train of thought. Well, this just got interesting. The door to their boss's office swung open, and a tall Rakiri woman leaned out. Hella, John, get in here. We need to talk. There have been developments. Ventures forth bravely into vast unknowns was screaming as Milk burst into the common room, colliding with a floating chair and slamming into the opposite wall. Cookie entered a split second after, catching the door-mounted handholds and swearing. Damn it, Milk, pushing's cheating, he shouted into the room, as the pair finished their zero-gravity race through their patrol carrier. Milk laughed and flipped him off before orienting herself in the air, and maglocked herself to a wall to look up at Ventures Forth, who was sitting on the ceiling with a shield-built laptop style on the slate. You doing okay there? Let me guess. Concrete? Fucking concrete. The more than half metal cyborg shouted in frustration. I've increased the production of water, sticks and bricks, but my concrete production isn't increasing. Ventures Forth let out a bit of electronic static, as her modified voice box couldn't quite keep up with the angry screeching her brain was sending it. Have you made sure you've got enough fabricators, and that your increased production didn't create a bottleneck? Cookie asked, pushing himself over to a small refrigerator, kept stock for off-shift crew. Oh, hey, they've got the good pudding. The blue ones? Milk asked. I still don't know how you like them. I get that this is one of the few non-fruity shield foods, but seriously? The blue ones, not the white? Ventures Forth listened to the byplay going on around her before giving another screech. Bottlenecked? Cookie asked, amused. Bottlenecked, Forth replied. I hate that you introduced me to this game, but so are my ancestors. I love it so much. Thought you would, Cookie replied with a smirk. Separated only by a thin wall, Slivers floated, coiled around a thermal pipe, her omnislate slate held in her hands. A message sat on his screen, prompting the Seventh to press play. A message from her matriarch. It had been sent off the news reached the homeworld about her graduation, and the patrol vessel Slivers was on had met the courier vessel halfway from home. This was a message from her matriarch. Matriarchs. They were the best of Sem society, their leaders and their champions standing above and beyond what the common person could achieve. Strong, dominant leaders who strode into a battle like it was a ballroom, and a ballroom like it was a battle flanked by a pair of perfect men and followed by a clutch of warriors, diplomats and natural philosophers. And Den C. Lewis was first among equals on the homeworld. She looked at the image shown once more. It was her matriarch. Pale white underscales with vibrant orange overscales, segmented metal armor covering her form in the traditional style of home, shapely breastplate showing that even though she would wear this into battle, she could fight and win with inferior equipment. A crown that was not a crown made of pure iron, placed upon her head. She was beautiful. The three figures standing next to her were as well. The two live males standing next to her were perfect. White scowls with an orange stripe of paint across the eyes and vibrant green highlights in their hood caused them to stand out against the governess's office wall as they lounged on the governess's desk. One carried a ceremonial glaive that was still sharp enough to cut through vehicle armor, while the other was idly flipping through a book about Earth. The male of clever politics was learning about her friend's home. Slivers shivered in happiness as she realized that. Finally, there was the only member of the picture who was standing, the Shovanti governess herself, who wore a traditional Semp-style skirt, something that had become the fashion for her family when posted to the Semp homeworld. The first matriarch had a towel wrapped around one leg and trailed up into the hidden depths of the microskirt the Shovanti wore. Slivers giggled. What did the show think would happen, sending such a weak-willed family to try and enforce dominance over her matriarch? Slivers smiled and pressed play. She of slender tail. Her matriarch began in the flowing subharmonics of the Semp tongue. The tinny speakers of the holojector were barely capable of getting across the sublime perfection of her voice. We wish to congratulate you on your graduation from the Imperial Patrol Academy. When I first heard one of my children was heading offward to join the patrol, I was overjoyed. Far too many choose the merchant's trade, or becoming the Imperium's thugs in the Navy. To learn that you had joined the Protectors of the Ways, I could not have been prouder of a child of my clutch. Slivers found herself shifting at that, straightening up like the matriarch was in the room with her, telling her that personally. And then I heard that not only will you serve in the most honourable force in this Imperium, but you would serve under Matriarch Rochelle. The sisters gone before must be looking down with pride for you to serve such a prestigious matriarch. Then I read a touch further, and instead of being a gunnery crew like you enlisted, that you were being groomed to be a watchkeeper. One of the males, the one reading the book about Earth, a comprehensive history of the world of dirt and its people, looked up. That book wasn't one of the ones Milk owned, so it probably got it mostly right. She needed our aid to distress right after, isn't that right, he of Cunning Blade? The male's sub-vocals rolled through the speaker, and caused the scales on Slivers' face to stand up in a blush. It was beautiful. Not like her squeaky sub-vocals. The other one laughed as Matriarch Celios gave he of Serene Wisdom a swat in the rear before continuing. He is not wrong, she of Slender Tail. I could not believe how high a child of my clutch continues to rise. It is the Celios blood in you, child. I could not be more proud, the matriarch says with a smile. A blush started being raised on the governess's face the entire conversation until, with a shuddering gasp, she fell to her knees clutching her crotch. I really thought she'd last, the glaive-wielding male said before shrugging. Doesn't matter. Congratulations. There was a pause. Although I have been informed that you would prefer to be called he of Slender Tail. He of Cunning Blade said with a fond smile. Brother. The recording ended. Slivers squealed in happiness. She pressed play again, for the 7th time. You know, when I first heard of you, I thought you would play Queens, Watchkeeper Sullivan said. Not Mythos. A table was carefully set in the centre of the captain's stateroom, on the patrol carrier, holding one of the 6-sided boards specifically set for Queens. It was similar, Rochelle found, after a bit of idle searching, to a game on the human homeworld called Chess, a game on the Rakiri homeworld called Pack, and a game on the Semp homeworld called Matriarchs. They were all very similar, but the idea of a game metaphorically showing a set of queens facing each other across a battlefield with their troops seemed to blend, though. The board was empty, and the only reason the fine stone was not covered in dust was because of regular cleaning services. Instead, the captain and watchkeeper sat at a small bar normally used to serve drinks, flicking down colourful cards with fantastic figures and abilities onto the simple alloy with a pair of even simpler cocktails resting next to their sets. Herald of the Deep against your huntswoman's wake, Rochelle said to our watchkeeper, swearing. And I understand the confusion. I'm passable at it and good at reading my opponent, but an equal battle where all sides take turns fighting with nothing to shake up the field? That could not be more different from actual war if you tried. I also find it quite boring. It's also a solved game. It is also a solved game, and solved games are never engaging. All they are is running down the list of correct scenarios until you find the most optimal path. And you don't like that because you're too good at it? Silver asked. Rochelle scoffed, putting down a spread of cards to buy her some space as the watchkeeper's deck began to swing the balance of power away from the clay-hearted captain. I'm horrible at that type of work. Don't give me that look. We both know that I can read a situation and send the right people, but rote memorization of the correct choices, and my failure to do so is what got me assigned to a periphery fleet in the first place. Oh, and laws and myths threatening Heartland. Wait, where? Fuck, Selva replied. looking over the car shuffled down in the middle of a bunch of trash cards. Clever, clever. I think you take that. Damn it, second game in a row. The captain grins. Never bet against old lady Rochelle. We both know you hate that song. Watchkeeper Silver replied pointedly. Rochelle refused to comment, taking back her cards and giving them a shuffle. Pointedly, taking a sip of her drink. You hate that song, right? She began to whistle. You father Milk found Venture's fourth, sitting alone in the hangar, with what looked like a small bush propped up next to her bench. She had her omni slate out and was happily working away at what was probably a game of Factorio. The Irish woman walked forward to greet the Gears child. So, how's the game treating you? Milk asked Venture's fourth, hearing happy noises coming from the cyborg. It's going well, Fourth replies as Milk wanders over and gives her a little peck on the cheek. Just launched my fourth rocket, and all factories are producing at full tilt. I may start modding it. I'll just need to do a data request, or making my own mods. Milk sits down next to the Gears child, lounging back. Glad to hear it. I'm happy that something from Earth has become enjoyable for you, unlike English. Four throws up her hands. I refuse to attempt to speak one more word of that horrible tongue. Where are the rules? Why are there so many exceptions? Milk laughed. Anyway, changing the topic. You said your family was coming to see you off. Did you mean the station or the hangar bay? I'm not seeing them and you said they were going to be here. Are they late or something? It was at that moment the bush propped up against the wall next to Venture's Four spoke up. No, I'm just a bit early. Oh, motherfuck!